Commander Vos'Tavik of the Galactic Cartography Fleet adjusted his optical sensors as his ship, the Boundless Discovery, glided into orbit around the small blue planet. The third rock from an unremarkable yellow star shouldn't have warranted a second glance, but something about it kept nagging at him. The planet was labeled as Abandoned Civilization 42897 in the databases, but Vos had a hunch there was more to the story. "Lieutenant Krex, remind me why we're wasting fuel orbiting this backwater again." Vos asked, his four arms simultaneously typing coordinates, adjusting his uniform, and holding a cup of steaming Xeno coffee. Lieutenant Krex, a mollusk-like being with translucent skin that revealed her nervous system lighting up in patterns of blue and green, consulted her datapad. "According to archives, sir, this planet once housed a species called humans. They were supposedly wiped out in what their records called the Great Oopsie about 75 galactic cycles ago." "The Great Oopsie?" Vos repeated with a snort. "What kind of civilization names their extinction event an Oopsie?" "A stupid one, sir," replied Krex, her skin flashing in what passed for laughter among her kind. "Records indicate they were bipedal mammals with an unhealthy obsession for fermenting their food until it became toxic, then consuming it recreationally." "Sounds delightful," Vos muttered. "So what triggered my sensors? There shouldn't be any active technology down there." Second Officer Pazik, a towering insectoid with compound eyes that took up most of his face, chittered from his station. "Commander, I'm detecting scattered energy signatures. Nothing consistent with a thriving civilization, but definitely more than an extinct one should have." Curious, Vos mused, setting down his coffee. "We prepare a landing party. Let's see what's making those energy signatures. Maybe some automated systems are still running." "Or looters," suggested Krex. "This sector has seen increased Vraxxian smuggler activity. Either way, we should investigate. Pazik, you're with me. Krex, you have the bridge." As Vos and Pazik prepared to board the shuttle, Science Officer Nalia joined them. A reptilian with scales that shifted color based on her emotions, currently a curious purple, she carried a portable analyzer. "Commander, permission to join the landing party? If there are biological samples to collect, I'd like to be there." "Granted," Vos replied. "Just don't touch anything that looks like it might bite back." The shuttle descended through wispy clouds, breaking through to reveal a landscape that was surprisingly intact. Cities stretched across the horizon, not the ruined husks Vos expected, but structures that appeared merely neglected rather than destroyed. "This doesn't look like an extinction event," Pazik observed as the shuttle glided over a city with tall buildings, green parks, and intact roadways. "More like everyone just left for vacation," Nalia agreed, her scales flickering to a confused yellow-orange. Vos guided their shuttle toward what appeared to be a large structure with an open flat area beside it, perfect for landing. As they touched down, the landing pad lights automatically illuminated. "Automated systems still functioning after 75 cycles? Impressive engineering," Vos admitted grudgingly. The trio disembarked cautiously, weapons ready, sensors scanning for threats. The air was breathable according to their instruments, though it carried a strange mixture of scents, some pleasant, others decidedly not. "Smells like my third spouse after a night of binge drinking fermented root juice," Pazik commented, his antennae twitching. "Too much information, Pazik," Vos replied dryly. "Let's head into that building. Largest energy signature is coming from there." The structure appeared to be some sort of living complex, with hundreds of identical units stacked on top of each other. As they approached the entrance, the doors slid open automatically. "Definitely still powered," Nalia whispered, her scales now a wary red. The lobby was dusty but otherwise intact. No signs of violence, no evidence of panicked evacuation. Just emptiness. "Pazik, which unit has the strongest energy reading?" Vos asked. Pazik consulted his scanner. "Level 42, Unit 87. They located a transport tube and elevator. According to the human labeling and to their surprise, it worked perfectly when Pazik pressed the button labeled 42. I'm starting to think the great Oopsie might have been greatly exaggerated, Vos muttered as they ascended. When they reached level 42, they followed the scanner readings to Unit 87. The door was sealed, but a simple interface panel glowed beside it. Should we knock? Nalia asked. Vos reached out one of his forearms and pressed what appeared to be a signal button. A chiming sound echoed from inside the unit. Silence. He pressed it again. More silence. Stand back, Vos ordered, drawing his standard issue disruptor. He aimed at the locking mechanism, but before he could fire, they heard movement inside. Something crashed. A muffled curse followed. Then shuffling footsteps approached the door. The three explorers raised their weapons as the door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Standing before them, squinting against the hallway light, was a disheveled creature. Bipedal. Mostly hairless except for a patch of tangled strands on top of its head. It wore some kind of soft body covering decorated with cartoon creatures holding alcoholic beverages and text that read party like it's $21.99. A human. An actual, living human. The creature stared at them for 3 long seconds before speaking in a raspy voice. If you're selling something, I'm not interested. If you're religious, doubly not interested. If you're debt collectors, I died yesterday. This is my ghost. Vos, Pazik, and Nalia remained frozen, weapons still raised, as the human rubbed its bloodshot eyes. Seriously? The human continued when they didn't respond. Alien costumes? At 9 a.m. What convention is in town that I forgot about? Vos finally found his voice. You're human? Last time I checked, the creature replied, leaning against the doorframe. Though after last night, I'm questioning that myself. Pretty sure humans aren't supposed to survive consuming that much tequila. Pazik's antennae twitched rapidly in confusion. But humans are extinct. The great Oopsie. The human snorted, a laugh escaping that turned into a wince as it held its head. Oh God, you even did research for your costumes. Look, nerds, I appreciate the dedication, but I'm incredibly hungover. And the human paused, really looking at them for the first time. Its eyes widened. Those aren't costumes, are they? No, Vos confirmed. We are representatives of the Galactic Cartography Fleet. I am Commander Vos'Tavik. These are my officers Pazik and Nalia. The human's mouth opened and closed several times before it managed. I'm Theo. Theodore Alvarez. And I think I need to sit down. Theo stumbled backward into the unit, collapsing onto a soft furniture piece. The alien trio cautiously followed, weapons lowered but not holstered. This is impossible, Nalia whispered, her scales flashing between disbelieving blue and excited pink. An extant human specimen. Specimen is standing right here and can hear you, Theo grumbled. Look, not that I'm not thrilled about first contact and all that, but could we maybe do this after I've had coffee and painkillers? My head feels like a supernova. Vos studied the human with growing fascination. According to our records, humanity was wiped out 75 galactic cycles ago, approximately 120 Earth years. Theo laughed, then immediately regretted it, clutching his head. Yeah, that tracks. Not extinct, just the greatest collective hangover in history. Explain, demanded Vos. Theo sighed, dragging himself up. He shuffled to what appeared to be a food preparation area and began manipulating a machine that produced a dark, aromatic liquid. The scent made Vos's antennae twitch. Ever hear of the party to end all parties? Theo asked, pouring the liquid into a container. The aliens exchanged glances. Nalia's scales turned a curious lavender. Oh, right, aliens, Theo muttered. Look, about 120 years ago, humanity developed what we thought was the perfect recreational substance, called it euphoria. No harmful side effects, no addiction potential, just pure, perfect bliss for exactly 24 hours. Or so the advertising claimed. He took a long sip of his beverage, color slowly returning to his face. The whole planet decided to synchronize and take it together. One massive, global party. The marketing was brilliant, the party to end all parties. Turns out that was more literal than anyone expected. How so? Pazik asked, his compound eyes reflecting Theo's image 1,000 times over. Euphoria worked exactly as advertised for 24 hours. Perfect bliss. What the developers didn't anticipate was that it also induced a hibernation state afterward. The entire human race basically went to sleep. For 120 years? Voas asked incredulously. Theo shrugged. Different people are waking up at different rates. I've only been conscious for about 3 months. My neighbor across the hall for 6. The automated systems kept us alive, feeding tubes, waste removal, that kind of thing. Not very dignified, but effective. That's preposterous, Nalia said, though her scales had turned the bright orange of scientific excitement. Says the talking lizard to the supposedly extinct human, Theo countered. Look, I don't fully understand the science. Something about euphoria triggering a previously dormant gene that activated hibernation capabilities. Some evolutionary leftover from when we were smaller, furrier, and lived in trees. Voas was processing this information rapidly. So humanity isn't extinct. Nope, just sleeping it off. And let me tell you, it's the mother of all hangovers when you wake up. Theo drained his cup and poured another. Muscles atrophied, complete memory of the party but fuzzy on everything else, and the headache lasts for weeks. How many humans are awake now? Pazik asked. Maybe a few thousand globally? We've established contact using the old internet infrastructure, calling ourselves the early risers. Some government types are among the awake, trying to get basic services running again before the masses wake up. Vos's mind was racing with the implications. A species thought extinct, suddenly returning to the galactic stage. The diplomatic, scientific, and military ramifications were enormous. Why haven't you made your presence known to the galaxy? Voas demanded. Theo laughed. Dude, we're still trying to remember how to walk properly and figure out what happened to all our pets. Interstellar communication hasn't exactly been a priority. Just then, a device on Theo's counter chimed. He glanced at it, and his expression changed. Well, speaking of government types, that's the early riser alert system. Apparently, we have a ship in orbit that wasn't there yesterday. He gave the aliens a pointed look. You guys might want to sit down. Seems like you're about to get a more official welcome than one hungover guy in pajamas. The device projected a message into the air. Attention, all early risers, unidentified vessel in orbit. First contact protocols initiated. Remain calm. Director Winters will address the planet at 1,000 hours. Theo checked the time display on his wall. That's in 20 minutes. He looked down at his rumpled state. I should probably put on pants for this historic occasion. As Theo disappeared into another room, Voas turned to his officers. This changes everything, he whispered. Should we contact the fleet? Pazik asked. Not yet, Vos decided. Let's see what this Director Winters has to say first. Nalia's scales had settled into an excited pink. Commander, do you realize what this means for xenobiology? An entire species coming back from presumed extinction? The hibernation capabilities alone could revolutionize long-distance space travel. Voas nodded slowly. And their planet is in a strategically valuable location. If humans have been asleep, they've missed a century of galactic politics. The Vraxxian Empire, the colonization wars, the rise of the merchant guilds. You think they'll be vulnerable, Pazik observed. I think, Voas replied carefully, that we need to tread very cautiously. A species that accidentally drugs itself into hibernation for a century might be unpredictable in other ways too. Theo returned, now dressed in more formal attire, though his hair remained chaotic. So, he said, clapping his hands together and immediately wincing at the sound. First contact. Exciting. Anyone want more coffee while we wait for the director's address? I have a feeling this is going to be an interesting day. Voas looked at the human, this representative of a species that had accidentally removed itself from galactic affairs for over a century through sheer party-induced carelessness. And yet they had survived, their technology continuing to function, their bodies preserved, now gradually reawakening to a universe that had moved on without them. Yes, Vos said finally. I believe I would like to try this coffee. Something tells me we're all going to need it. The wall display in Theo's apartment flickered to life at precisely 1,000 hours. The face that appeared belonged to a stern-looking woman with silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a tight bun. Deep lines around her eyes suggested she'd been among the first to wake up. Fellow early risers and citizens of Earth, this is Director Rebecca Winters of the Global Recovery Initiative. As many of you are aware, we have detected an unidentified vessel in orbit around our planet. Theo glanced at the three aliens sitting awkwardly on his sofa. Voas was cautiously sipping coffee, his facial tentacles curling around the mug in what Theo assumed was pleasure. Pazik had declined any refreshments, while Nalia was scanning everything in sight with her handheld device. Contrary to initial concerns, Director Winters continued, we have confirmation that this is not a hostile presence. In fact, we have made contact with representatives of what they call the Galactic Cartography Fleet. Voas nearly spat out his coffee. How do they know this? We haven't communicated with anyone but you. Theo shrugged. Apparently you're not the only aliens who decided to check out the supposedly dead planet today. On screen, Director Winters maintained her composure as she delivered what was arguably the most important news bulletin in human history. These visitors believed humanity to be extinct, a misconception we are now correcting. I want to assure everyone that we are handling this first contact situation with appropriate protocols. What protocols? Theo snorted. We literally just woke up from a century-long bender. The protocol manual is probably being used as a pillow by someone still hibernating. Winters continued. All early risers are instructed to continue recovery operations. If you encounter non-human visitors, remain calm and contact your local recovery hub immediately. Remember, we are representatives of humanity during this crucial moment. The screen split to show a different alien, a gelatinous being with multiple eye stalks, wearing what appeared to be a translucent containment suit. This is Ambassador Gloop of the Galactic Council, Winters introduced. The name was clearly an approximation for human pronunciation. Galactic Council? Voas hissed. Since when does the cartography fleet answer to the Council? We don't, Pazik chittered nervously. The Council is a political entity. We're scientific explorers. Ambassador Gloop's eye stalks wobbled as it spoke, its words translated into a pleasant, genderless voice. People of Earth, your unexpected survival is most fortuitous. The Galactic Council welcomes humanity back to the interstellar community, though technically you were never formally part of it before your temporary absence. That's diplomatic speak for you were primitive nobodies before you took a nap, Theo explained unnecessarily. In light of recent galactic developments, Gloop continued, the Council has voted to offer Earth-protected status and membership, effective immediately. Voas stood up so quickly that coffee sloshed over the rim of his mug. This is outrageous. The Council can't just claim a rediscovered civilization without proper procedures. Is that bad? Theo asked, looking genuinely concerned for the first time. It's unprecedented, Nalia explained, her scales shifting to a troubled blue. Normally, newly contacted species go through decades of integration before Council membership is offered. On screen, Director Winters was speaking again. While we are grateful for the Council's offer, humanity needs time to recover fully before making such significant decisions. We request a grace period of 1 standard galactic year. Gloop's eye stalks quivered in what might have been disappointment. The Council strongly recommends immediate acceptance of our protection. There are other interested parties in this sector. The Vraxxians, Pazik whispered. They've been expanding aggressively in this region. Theo looked between the screen and his alien guests. Okay, I'm getting the distinct impression that galactic politics got complicated while we were catching Z's. Anyone want to fill me in? Vos fixed his 4 eyes on Theo. Your species picked a particularly inconvenient time for a collective nap. The power dynamics of the galaxy have shifted dramatically in the last 75 cycles. The broadcast continued as Winters and Gloop exchanged diplomatic pleasantries, but it was clear that both sides were dancing around something significant. Director Winters, Theo called out, even though it was obviously a recorded transmission. Maybe ask why they're so eager to have us join their club when we haven't even remembered how to tie our shoes properly yet. As if responding to his question, Winters addressed it directly. Ambassador, while we appreciate the Council's sudden interest in Earth, we must ask what has changed in the galaxy that makes our world so strategically valuable now. Gloop's containment suit rippled, possibly the equivalent of an uncomfortable shrug. Earth sits at a critical junction of newly discovered hyperlanes. Additionally, your solar system contains resources of particular interest. Translation, your real estate got valuable while you were hibernating, and now everyone wants to be your best friend or your landlord, Vos said dryly. Theo's communication device chimed again. He glanced at it, and his eyes widened. Well, this just got more interesting. Apparently, there's a 3rd ship entering orbit. Not Council, not Cartography Fleet. Vos and his officers exchanged alarmed looks. Vraxxians? Pazik suggested. The broadcast was interrupted by an emergency signal. Director Winters' expression became noticeably more tense as she received information off camera. Citizens of Earth, remain calm. We are monitoring a developing situation in orbit. Please stand by for. The transmission cut abruptly, replaced by a new face. This one belonged to a being that resembled a cross between a shark and a bodybuilder, with grayish skin stretched over pronounced muscles and rows of gleaming teeth displayed in what was probably meant to be a smile but looked decidedly predatory. People of Earth. I am Captain Drask of the Vraxxian Merchant Guild. Disregard the Council's feeble offerings. The Vraxxian Collective extends a much more generous proposition. Vos groaned. Merchant Guild? They're not merchants, they're glorified pirates. Let me guess, Theo said, rubbing his temples. These Vraxxian guys aren't offering friendship bracelets and pen pals? The Vraxxians are expansionists, Nalia explained, her scales now a worried purple. They find resource-rich worlds with technologically inferior species and offer protection in exchange for basically everything of value. Captain Drask continued his broadcast, teeth gleaming under the lights. The Vraxxian Collective offers humans immediate technological advancement, military protection, and full integration into our trade networks. All we require is exclusive mining rights to your outer planets and moons, plus a modest 30% resource tithe from Earth itself. Modest, he says, Theo scoffed. We haven't even figured out who owns what after the hibernation mess, and this fish face wants a 30% cut. The broadcast split again, now showing 3 faces, Director Winters, Ambassador Gloop, and Captain Drask, and all obviously in the middle of a heated 3-way negotiation that somebody had decided to broadcast planet-wide. This is unprecedented, Gloop's translator conveyed, eye stalks rigid with indignation. The Council has already extended an offer of protection, which Earth has not yet accepted, Drask countered smoothly. Therefore, they are free to entertain superior proposals. Director Winters looked like she was developing a headache to rival Theo's. Gentlemen, assuming that term applies to your respective species, Earth is not currently in a position to accept any external governance or resource-sharing agreements. Vos turned to Theo. Your Director Winters is handling this surprisingly well for someone who recently woke up from hibernation. She was a diplomatic negotiator before the party, Theo explained. One of the first to wake up, apparently. Had been conscious for almost a year. On screen, the argument was escalating. The Council will not permit Vraxxian exploitation of a recovering species. Gloop insisted, its gelatinous form rippling with agitation. And how will you stop us? Drask's teeth seemed to multiply as his smile widened. Your Council peacekeeping fleet is 3 sectors away. My battle cruisers are already in this system. Battle cruisers? Vos stood up. They told us they were a merchant vessel. Theo's apartment door chimed. He glanced at his alien guests nervously before approaching the door. If that's more aliens, I'm going to need something stronger than coffee. The door slid open to reveal a human woman in a crisp uniform with the GRI Global Recovery Initiative insignia. Behind her stood 4 security officers with weapons that looked considerably more advanced than what one might expect from a pre-hibernation Earth. Theodore Alvarez, the woman asked, consulting her datapad. That's me. Though if this is about my hibernation taxes, I'd like to point out that being unconscious should count as a valid exemption. The woman didn't smile. I'm Commander Jasmine Ortega, GRI Security Division. We detected 3 non-terrestrial life forms at your location. She peered past him at the aliens. I see the readings were accurate. They're friendly, Theo assured her. Just dropped by for coffee and interstellar political drama. Commander Ortega's expression remained professionally neutral. Director Winters has requested the presence of all alien visitors at GRI Headquarters immediately. She focused on Vos, particularly representatives of the Cartography Fleet who aren't currently posturing in orbit. Vos stepped forward. Commander Vos'Tavik at your service. These are my officers, Pazik and Nalia. We mean no harm. We genuinely believed your species was extinct. So we've heard, Ortega replied. If you'll come with us, the director has a proposal that might interest you. A proposal? Pazik's antennae twitched suspiciously. One that might prevent an interstellar incident in Earth's orbit, Ortega clarified, and possibly a war. Theo grabbed his jacket. I'm coming too. Mr. Alvarez, that won't be necessary. Look, Commander, Theo interrupted. I'm probably the only human who's had a proper conversation with these 3. Plus, I'm a historical linguist, or was, before the party. I might be useful. Ortega hesitated, then nodded curtly. Fine, but stay out of the way. The journey to GRI Headquarters took only minutes in a sleek transport vehicle that hovered above the streets. Theo stared out the window at his city buildings, intact but empty, automated maintenance systems keeping everything in working order, waiting for their owners to wake up. It's eerie, Nalia commented, her scales a contemplative blue-green, like time froze. Pretty much did for us, Theo said. The party to end all parties became the nap to end all naps. The GRI Headquarters turned out to be what was once the United Nations building, now repurposed as the Command Center for Humanity's recovery efforts. Inside, it was a hive of activity, early risers working at various stations, monitoring global systems and communication networks. Director Winters greeted them in a conference room where a large holographic display showed Earth orbit, complete with 3 distinct vessels. The sleek scientific ship of the Cartography Fleet, the bulbous diplomatic vessel of the Galactic Council, and the ominous, spiked warship of the Vraxxians. Commander Vos'Tavik, Winters said, extending her hand in the human greeting custom. Thank you for joining us. Vos awkwardly clasped her hand with one of his 4 arms. Your security officer mentioned a proposal? Yes, Winters gestured to the display. As you can see, we have a situation developing. The Vraxxians have revealed that what they claimed was a merchant vessel is actually a battle cruiser. They're demanding Earth accept their protection or face consequences. Classic Vraxxian tactics, Vos'Tavik chittered angrily. The Council is threatening sanctions, but as Captain Drask pointed out, their peacekeeping fleet isn't close enough to intervene if the Vraxxians decide to force the issue. And where do we fit in? Voas asked cautiously. Winters smiled for the first time. You're scientists, not politicians or soldiers. You have no stake in this conflict, which makes you the perfect neutral third party. For what exactly? Nalia asked, her scales shifting to a curious orange. To witness the activation of Earth's planetary defense system. The room fell silent. Theo looked as confused as the aliens. Planetary defense system. Theo repeated. Since when do we have one of those? Winter's smile widened slightly. Mr. Alvarez, did you think our government spent the last century before hibernation doing nothing? The party was planned, yes, but it was never supposed to last this long. While the public was focusing on euphoria, the world's militaries were quietly installing a unified defense grid. You're saying Earth has weapons? Voas asked, his tentacles curling in surprise. More than weapons, Commander. We have a fully automated defense network that's been operational and self-maintaining for the past 120 years. It was designed to wake up a skeleton crew of military personnel in case of extraterrestrial contact. She gestured around. The early risers aren't all civilians with hangovers. Theo looked stunned, so while we were partying and then napping. A select group was preparing for exactly this scenario, Winters confirmed. Now, we'd prefer not to debut out our defense capabilities with an actual conflict. That's where you come in, Commander Vos'Tavik. Voas tilted his head questioningly. We want you to confirm to both the Council and the Vraxxians that Earth is fully capable of defending itself, and that neither protection nor invasion would be advisable. You want me to bluff on your behalf? Voas asked incredulously. No bluff, Winters said, pressing a button on the console. The holographic display zoomed out to show a network of satellites surrounding Earth. We're going to give you a demonstration, and then you can tell them what you saw with your own eyes. She nodded to a technician, who initiated a sequence. One of the satellites pivoted, extended what looked like a focusing array, and fired a pinpoint beam toward a small asteroid in Earth's vicinity. The asteroid didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist, leaving not even dust behind. Matter conversion technology, Winters explained casually, transforms matter directly into energy. That was at 2% power on our smallest defensive platform. The aliens stared in shock. Theo whistled low. That's impossible, Nalia whispered, her scales now white with astonishment. That technology is theoretical at best. For the rest of the galaxy, perhaps, Winters agreed. But humans have always excelled at finding new ways to protect ourselves or destroy others, depending on your perspective. So let me get this straight, Theo said, leaning forward. While the rest of us were enjoying the party and then sleeping it off, a secret group was building super weapons? Building is the wrong word, Winters corrected. We were completing and deploying. The research was done decades before. Euphoria wasn't just a recreational drug, Mr. Alvarez. It was a cover. For what? Theo demanded. For the most extensive covert military operation in human history. We needed the world distracted while we launched the defense grid. The hibernation side effect was unexpected, but ultimately useful. It gave the automated systems time to reach full operational status without interference. Voas looked at the human director with newfound respect and caution. You're asking me to inform the Council and the Vraxxians that a species they thought extinct not only still exists, but possesses technology beyond their own capabilities. Precisely. Winters nodded. We'll wake up fully eventually. But until then, we'd appreciate being left alone to recover at our own pace, without becoming pawns in galactic politics." "And if I refuse?" Vo asked. "Then we'll demonstrate our capabilities more directly," Winters replied, her tone making it clear this wasn't a threat, but a statement of fact. "We'd prefer diplomacy, Commander." Vo was considered for a long moment, all four eyes blinking in sequence. Finally, he nodded. "I will convey what I've witnessed. As a scientist, I cannot in good conscience withhold such significant data." "Excellent." Winters turned to the technician. "Prepare a communication link to all vessels in orbit." As they set up the transmission, Theo sidled up to Vos. "So humanity accidentally drugs itself into hibernation for a century, and when we wake up, we find out we've secretly been building superweapons, and the galaxy has developed a sudden interest in our real estate. Not exactly the take-me-to-your-leader scenario I imagined for first contact." "Your species continues to defy expectations," Voas replied dryly. "Most civilizations document their extinction events accurately. Yours throws a party, takes a nap, and wakes up better armed." The communication link activated, displaying both Ambassador Gloop and Captain Drask. Their expressions, as much as alien faces, could show expression-registered surprise at seeing Vos with the humans. "Commander Vos'Tavik," Drask growled. "What is the meaning of this?" "The cartography fleet has no business interfering in Vraxxian expansion." "Commercial opportunities," corrected Gloop quickly. "I'm not here to interfere," Vos stated clearly. "I'm here as a scientific observer. And I have observed something that both the Council and the Collective should be aware of regarding Earth." He proceeded to describe, in precise scientific detail, the demonstration he had witnessed. As he spoke, the images of both Gloop and Drask showed increasing alarm. "Matter conversion technology is impossible," Drask dismissed, though his sharp teeth were no longer displayed in a confident smile. "I observed it directly," Vos insisted. "And as the official records will now show, the cartography fleet has classified Earth as protected indigenous civilization with advanced defensive capabilities. I recommend both your factions respect this designation." Gloop's eye stalks drooped slightly. "The Council, of course, has always supported non-interference with developing species. Our offer of protection was merely a courtesy. And the Vraxxian Collective respects the scientific assessments of the cartography fleet," Drask added, his predatory features now carefully neutral. "We will postpone our trade proposals until humanity has fully recovered." "How generous of you both," Director Winters said smoothly. "Earth looks forward to establishing diplomatic relations with the galactic community once we've finished waking up and dealing with our collective hangover." After the transmission ended, Winters turned to Vos with a satisfied nod. "Thank you, Commander. You've helped prevent what could have been a very unpleasant introduction to galactic politics." "I merely stated facts," Vos replied. "Though I must admit, I'm curious how a species capable of such advanced technology managed to accidentally hibernate for a century." Winters actually laughed at that. "Humans have always been walking contradictions, Commander. Brilliant and foolish, peaceful and warlike, capable of incredible technology and spectacular mistakes, often simultaneously." "That's an understatement," Theo muttered. "We literally threw the party to end all parties and then slept through a century." "And now?" Nalia asked, her scales a curious mix of colors. "What will humanity do?" "Wake up," Winters said simply. "Recover. Learn about the galaxy we've been missing. And then decide what kind of neighbors we want to be." As they left the director's office, Theo turned to Vos. "So, want to stick around? I could use some alien perspective while I adjust to this brave new world. Plus, you still haven't tried Earth's other beverages. Coffee is just the beginning of our liquid achievements." Vos considered the human disheveled, recently awakened from a century-long hibernation. yet already adapting to the revelation of aliens and secret defense systems with remarkable resilience. The Cartography Fleet's mission is to document and study unusual phenomena, Vos said finally. And I can think of nothing more unusual than a species that threw a party so legendary they slept through a century of galactic development, only to wake up at exactly the moment they needed to. Is that a yes? Theo asked. It's a scientific necessity, Vos replied with what passed for a smile among his kind. After all, the galaxy thought humans were extinct. Turns out you were just hungover. That definitely warrants further study. Theo grinned. Fair warning, we're probably going to throw another party to celebrate first contact. Hopefully without the century-long nap afterward. As they left GRI Headquarters, stepping out into a world on the verge of rejoining the galactic community, Vos couldn't help but wonder what the galaxy was in for now that humanity was waking up. One thing was certain: it wouldn't be boring. A species that could accidentally hibernate for a century and wake up with technology advanced enough to make even the Vraxxians nervous was not one to be underestimated, hangover or not. The party to end all parties had ended. But humanity's galactic adventure was just beginning.